Okay, for this part of the assignment, we will be entering our FTP credentials into the Dreamweaver FTP client, which is done during using the Files tab. And by now, you should have received a username and login. And I'm going to be showing you how to get the additional information you need in order to do the complete FTP with your particular hosting company. For this class, I have already created subdomains for each student using Swanee.net, and you'll be able to essentially watch what I do with the class website that we've been working on, but then you'll be able to exchange your username and password likewise, but otherwise the rest of the settings should almost be exactly the same. Okay, so right now you should have Dreamweaver open, and I'm in the Files window here. If you don't have that open, you just go to Window and choose Files, and then you get a tab. If it's not permanently in your tabs, I would suggest putting it over there so that it's there every time you go, because this is something you use on a very regular basis in Dreamweaver. By default, you should be looking at your local view, and you'll see that you have all your files there ready to go. If you click on this tab up here, this is going to show you the remote server. Now I'm working in Dreamweaver CC 2015, so if some of the buttons or what the screen looks a little bit different, just keep that in mind. What you have, if you have 2014, should be relatively similar to this, and what I'm going to show you should work pretty much the same. You'll see that right now I have a site for my web files. I have local files for it, which has been working. I needed that in order to get my template to work. But now I need to put them onto a web server in order for them to show up on the internet. So what you can do is you can click on this little link here that says define a remote server, and you should get a window that opens like this. Another way to get there is to go to Site, Manage Sites, find the site that you're working on, and then you should be able to create the one that you have. And then you come over here to the second option called Servers, and then you get the same option. So let's do that again. Just come here to define a remote server. I'm going to click the plus button, which is right down here. And now I have some information to enter. Now every web hosting company is going to do this a little bit differently for shared hosting. So you need to go into the help files or contact the web hosting company to ask them what they need. Companies like GoDaddy, you can actually call them and they actually walk you through this. However, they prefer that you look it up yourself or try to look it up yourself first. But certainly if you ever have any troubles with any of the settings, you can usually find some kind of online guide that talks you through FTP, and sometimes they'll even have instructions specific for Dreamweaver. So look for those, and that'll vary for each web host. What we're going to be using is for a virtual private server on DreamHost. So this is a very unique setup. A lot of things will be similar across all hosting companies, but they will not be exactly the same by any means. On the class D2L content area for Project 9, I do have a screenshot that has most of these settings on there already for you. It should look like this. This is a screenshot that I took. So I'm going to want to make sure, I'm going to have that up over here on the side because I've already went and got that information from my hosting company. Although I'm not going to be able to show them at the same time. So the first thing I need to do is put in the server name. So right here for this, I got ogrix2.swanee.net. Now in the past, when I've done this with DreamHost, I used an FTP connection. That's a standard connection for file transfer protocol. But since then, they have made it a requirement to use what's called Secure File Transfer Protocol, so I need to switch this to SFTP. It's automatically going to set the port. You can research what a port means, but that's essentially a door that you use to get to their web server, and they specify that, and they can watch all connections through that one port. All right, so we have server name, SFTP. The next thing I'm going to need is the web server name itself. Now it happens to be that it's ps91342.dreamhost.com. So I'm just going to have to remember that here, ps91342.dreamhost.com. Let me just double check to make sure I got that right. 91342. Yep, that looks right. The port's going to be changed to 22 because we changed the connection to secure FTP. So the username, password, I still need to be able to put that in. Now, when we generated the usernames for the class, everyone has their own unique username, which is the second column of information. In this case, I have ogrix2 as my username. So I'll go ahead and put that in. And then I have password. These were all generated as I created user accounts in DreamHost. These passwords were created. I got to choose the username, but DreamHost gave me this password. So you'll have to use the password that works for your subdomain. You also have to use your username in order to update your subdomain. It won't work if you use your subdomain and somebody else's password or username. Now, that should make sense, but I thought I'd say it anyway. So I'll put that in here as my password. And for some reason, my Windows kind of grayed out. The next thing I'm going to take a look at is I got a root directory. So that's going to be ogrix2.swanee.net. And this is really weird why I got this faded out. Not really sure why it's doing that. There we go. So I put ogrix2.swanee.net. And then it looks like it put in the web URL. Now Dreamweaver might try to spit and put some things in here, but you'll want to change it back to what we have here on the screen grab. So it already knows that we're going to put it into a root directory, so you want to make it exactly like this. So let's go back to that. I'm actually going to take the end of this off. Now before I hit save, I can test this. Let's go ahead and do that. It'll spit and burp for a little bit, and then you should get this message that says you connected successfully. If not, it'll give you some instructions as to what's wrong. Maybe your username or password is wrong, or you don't have a secure internet connection. In some cases, if you're behind a firewall, it may not allow you to use FTP from within the firewall, and you may have to go to a place that doesn't have a firewall. Those are some common reasons why FTP access won't connect. In this case, I've connected successfully, so I hit OK. And I hit save. So now I should see this setting here for my my website. There are some advanced things that you can do. We won't be using those for this class. This is just a very basic way to move files from your computer to the web computer so that the website works. Now we aren't doing a testing server or any advanced things like that. That might be something for a more advanced class. Alright, let's go ahead and hit save. And now it'll say a cache is going to, you hit OK on that. And now you should see that you have a remote server and you have this little icon that looks like a connection. This is this first option right here. So if I hit the connection button, it should show me what's already on the remote server. Now it just happens to be that I've already uploaded all of these files once before. So they're already there. But when you do this, you'll see no files there, or likely what you'll have are two graphics and then another one called quickstart.html. What those are the pages that are parked. So in the case of nathan.swanee.net, this was one we just created, you'll see this page right here. And there are a couple graphics that So this is your quick start.html page that they put in there for you until you put your own files in there. So these are really just what are called parked HTML pages, and they've got a logo file in there as well. Eventually you're going to want to delete those files. You won't need them anymore. Alright, so what you do next, right now you have a connection to your remote server. So let's go back to our local view. Here are all our files. So the first time you load your website to the FTP, all you have to do is have your home folder, your root folder selected. By having that selected, you've essentially have everything selected. And then you're going to use this up arrow to put files to the remote server. So let's go ahead and do that. Even though I've done it, I'm going to do it again. Do I wish to put the entire site there? I go yes. So it's going to go ahead and you can watch the activity one by one. It puts the files up there. So you can imagine if you have a large site, this might take a little while. And it's also going to depend upon the speed of your internet connection. But in this case, we have a pretty small website, so it didn't take very long at all. So now, when I go to Remote View, all my files are there, which is kind of cool. Now they still have some files in here that I didn't need from before. I mean, they don't hurt for those to be there, but if I select them and I put Edit, Delete, that'll get rid of those files. And it'll always verify before you delete anything, which is kind of nice because you don't want to accidentally delete something. You want to be sure. And now my entire website is on my server. So when I go to ogrex, in this case ogrex.swanee.net, actually it was ogrex2, sorry. There we go. There's my website. And you should be able to see your website. Everything works. I click links and everything is working just fine. All of my pages are there, all my graphics are loading, and all my content is there. And it really works that simple. Alright, so let's say we need to make a change to the website and I want to upload or change something. So I make the change with Dreamweaver. You always make the change locally and then you upload it to the server again. So in this case, let's see, on my About page I've got some weird things, or maybe I'm just trying to find something I want to change. Let's see. You know, maybe I want to change just a little bit of content in this paragraph. So I come to Dreamweaver, I find the page that I want to edit, I double click it to open it. Now remember, a lot of this is grayed out because that content is controlled by the template. Don't need that anymore. So if I wanted to change something here, let's see here, she lures, steals, lies, and betrays. Let's add kills. So she kills, murders, lures, steals, lies, and betrays. And I hit save. So my file is saved, I can close it. And then I come over here back to my file window, and here is my index file. Now there's two different ways that I can do this update. Probably the easiest way is to select the file I just changed and go ahead and put it again. It'll say, should dependent files be included in the transfer? And most of the time you're going to click no. I wouldn't worry about that. In our case, it doesn't really make any difference. And then you hit no, and now it should be updated on your remote server. So now when I go back, this is the paragraph that got changed. Let's go ahead and hit refresh. And the new content is there. It's really as simple as that. Now what if I make a change that's site-wide? For instance, I used to have a store page, but I no longer want a store page. So in Dreamweaver, I'm going to come over here, open up my template, And then the first thing I'm going to do is in split view, I'm going to, well, in code view, I'm going to get rid of this whole line called store. I no longer have a store, so I need to get rid of that. All right, so the store page is now gone as far as a link. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now when I save on a template, as long as I've applied that template to all these pages, it'll remind me that that it needs to update all these pages. And I'll go ahead and say yes. Let's go ahead and do that. And once it says it's done, it's kind of they could make that a little more obvious, I think, but you're looking for it to say done right here. You hit close. You can now close your template. And the other part here is I no longer need a store page. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Go to Edit, Delete, and it says I have all these pages linking to it. I'll go ahead and hit yes anyway, even though it shouldn't be linking anymore. And now it's gone. Now what I want to do is go ahead and go back to my site. So what's nice about this is I can make all of the changes on my home page, and I can even preview it locally before I make any changes live. But if I want all of my changes to happen at one time, I click on the top folder, and now I come up to this button that says Synchronize. So Synchronize is a way that I can get and put files between the local and remote folders. All right, so one thing I've got here is I can have entire site, yes, get and put newer files. I'll go ahead and leave that in case there was something on the remote that I want now on my local. This will go and get it. But anything that's newly changed on the local web pages will automatically update the server pages. I'm also going to select this delete remote files not on local drive. Remember, I had deleted the store folder and its index file, so I want that also deleted from the remote server. You got to just really be careful when you're doing this, because if you start deleting and you're not being careful of what you're doing, you could accidentally delete something you want to do. So this is a process you want to be very attentive and take your time. Don't hurry through it, because if you delete things from both your local and your remote folder, then you don't have it anymore anywhere. So let's go ahead and hit preview. It'll always do a preview before you actually commit to all these changes. So it sits and figures out what's new, what's going to update, what's going to get deleted, and then you get this overall synchronized list. So I can look at everything that's going to happen. It looks like all of these pages right here were updated. That's good, because I had removed the store link from all of them on the template file, so that looks right. Also, it's saying it wants to go get the store index file. That's not what I wanted to have happen. It should delete this. So I'm not sure why it's synchronizing like that. So I won't want that to happen. Okay, so I can come down here and hit if I have this highlighted, I can delete that option. So I actually want to delete the option, not go get. Does that make sense? So you can change what it's going to do down here in case it doesn't get it quite right. So this looks good. I'll hit OK. And now it's going to go do its thing. Get another message, do I really want to delete it? Yes. And now it's gone. Okay? So now when I go to remote view, it should be pretty much a mirror of my local view. If it's not, I might have to manually do it. In this case, it still kept that store folder. So I'm going to go ahead and edit and delete that in remote view. And now my remote should look exactly the same as my local. That's exactly what I want. I go back to my website. We had deleted the store page. So now when I update, it that's now gone from all the pages on the website. So that's how you make updates. And that's really all there is to it.